Welcome to World Class Bullshitters, the epitome of pop culture. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks, and with me tonight is Dan Kane.
Crookshanks.
The Dr. Phil Seitz.
I'm dead inside.
Your foot's dead on the outside. And our special guest, local comic book illustrator, creator of Lightning Man, and my good personal friend, Dave Amorondo. Dave, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I saw a great movie, so I'm excited to talk.
Alright, so we just got out of Spider-Man Homecoming maybe an hour ago, and we're going to give you our review. So the first 10 minutes are going to be spoiler-free. We're just going to basically tell you what we liked without spoiling it, what we didn't like, and if you guys should see it. So, first off, Dave, since you're our special guest, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this movie?
1 to 10, I would probably put it at 9.5, but I'm very lenient when it comes to Spider-Man movies, so...
Dan.
8.
Phil.
Fuck this movie, 1. No, I'm just kidding. 8.
I'm close to 8, maybe a 7.5. I should watch it again before. I gotta let the hype die down. Well, I mean, it was good and enjoyable, and I'll get to the points that everyone wants to hear. Is it better than Spider-Man 3? Yes, it is. Is it better than The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2? God, yes, it is. It's not even comparable. Like, those don't even feel like real movies. Those feel like art projects made by retarded high school kids that think everything dark is cool. So, we're finally out of that Dark Knight trend that we've been stuck in since 2008. And finally, for the first time in maybe 13 years, I can say we have a good Spider-Man film that stands up to Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 1 as something that is enjoyable for everyone of every age. It does justice to the character. It's not perfect by any means, and I definitely have tons of criticisms, but it's a good time, and if you were on the fence about seeing it, you should go watch it and tell us what you think about it.
Exactly. You know, I'd even say, you know, if you were on the fence, not a lot of people were on the fence, because we had for a 7 o'clock show on a Thursday night here for like a major movie release. There were more people there than I would say when I went to see Wonder Woman at the initial release there, and that movie's making like a killing right now at the box office, and that movie was really good too. You know, and I would say both these movies have their own ways of, you know, gauging, you know, what a good concept is. But I'd say, you know, if I would totally recommend this movie. I would even say, you know, if you're going to spend the money, see it in IMAX. I would say that, because it does benefit from that full frame.
I'm glad you brought up Wonder Woman, because I feel like 2017 is the year of the comic book movie that I didn't really think was going to be good, but they've all been really good this year. Logan came out this year. That was awesome. Wonder Woman was great. This was great. Guardians 2 was great. We haven't had one bad mainstream superhero film yet this year. I can't say that about any other year this late into it.
I guess Thor's going to disappoint us then.
If Thor disappoints me, I'm going to come over to your house and beat you up personally. Don't you say that. Don't you jinx it. That's the movie I'm still the most excited for.
I'd say the only one that would probably be kind of a disappointment at this point would be Justice League, because that's coming out this year too, and that's around the same time Thor.
Now see, I forgot about it. Why did you remind me? God.
Well, I just gotta bring the truth to the conversation here.
You bastard.
The thing that's throwing me
Don't be telling me facts.
Okay.
Look, with Justice League, my expectations are so low that even an okay movie is going to blow me away. Like Wonder Woman, I thought it was going to be a platform for gender politics and identity. And the thing is, with that movie, they didn't market it to where it might not be. Like, people that are into that shit could look at the trailer and go, oh yeah, this is a girl power movie. But then you go see it, it's a pretty good, sweet movie. It's not anything like these vicious people on the internet want it to be. It doesn't promote an agenda. It doesn't push for something, and it doesn't become something it shouldn't be. And that's something about Spider-Man that I loved, because the way it's marketed is nothing like the way the film is. You know, that stupid, frenetic, ADD approach to the trailers and the marketing and those crappy posters. Like, it is nothing like that. And here's something that's not really a spoiler, audience, but you're going to hear it anyway. That really cool scene of Spider-Man and Iron Man flying together, that's not in the movie.
Exactly.
So,
but I agree with you there. I would say, you know, it's kind of telltale. It's kind of like where you see Sony's hands in things, where with the distribution, because they're basically if you look at the other Spider-Man trailers, they're even with Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, they're like high energy, they set up kind of the world-ish, but they, there's always like that quick joke at the end of the trailer, and they're trying to sell, it's really, I would say it's more their fingerprints on that than it would be Marvel. If you look at compare that to a Marvel trailer, very different trailers.
And I'm just really thankful though that the movie's not like that, because honestly, within the first, this is not a spoiler, but this movie starts off in the past. Within the first 10 seconds of this movie, you are deeply rooted in the MCU. This is not like I thought it was going to be, where it's a Spider-Man movie and it's really just crappy Sony product, and then there's Iron Man. No, this is deeply rooted in the MCU, and when we get to the spoiler portion of this video, we'll tell you what that means. But this is like straight up, it fits in with everything else. Everything. It talks about previous characters, previous events. It shows you previous events from another angle. It shows you stuff you didn't expect to see in this movie. That's what I was impressed with the most. This is nothing like you thought it was going to be.
Oh yeah, definitely. The opening sequence, no spoilers right now, but the opening sequence definitely does show you another side to some of the major events in the MCU storyline here, which I'm kind of excited to see if they'll continue that here, because they kind of reference similar situations in the Netflix series, which I'm not sure if they're canon with the MCU right now here, but I'd love to see them capitalize on that kind of storytelling, but we'll get into that once we get into the spoilers.
So, do we know how much Sony had their hand in the cookie jar in this one? Because I remember reading at the end of the credits, it said something about everything that you see here is a Sony product. It is pure profit by Sony Entertainment and Columbia Pictures. So I was like, I thought this was a Marvel. I thought it was like a joint project.
The end credit thing where they're talking about like produced by Sony, the green Earth, made with like recycled products, basically, to put it in a better way, just like reduced footprint there. But it's more, I think it's more to the fact that Sony would like to remind you that they have the rights to Spider-Man more than anything, and they'll continue to remind you that until they no longer make any profit off of that. I would say it's kind of a joint venture here, but you can tell, the first billing was Sony and then Columbia, which is also Sony product, and then you get the Marvel Studios logo on there. So it's kind of interesting, where the deal falls, but I'm still happy that they made the deal in the first place, and I'm very happy with the product that was put out.
So basically, Sony owns the rights, but Marvel produced the film.
Yeah, really, what it came down to, and Kevin Feige will probably have more information when it comes to that. How he likes to explain after the fact.
I guess this is a good time as ever to tell the audience we'll have Kevin Feige next week, listeners. So he'll tell you everything you need to know.
Excellent.
I could
Card
wish.
subject to change.
Yeah, thank you. Asterisk. No, Dave,
he's dead. He can't come on the show.
Dave, you made a good point, though, about that end product. Yes, it does say Sony at the beginning of the end, but that cynicism and that fake veneer of, that hollow shell that usually is a Sony film, that wasn't here this time. This was, it was a good movie. It had heart, it had action, it had drama, it had everything a Spider-Man film needed. And what I want to say, jumping back onto my point about the way it was marketed as the way the film actually turned out, the score was good. It was a traditional orchestral score. It wasn't a bunch of modern pop music. We didn't have the things I was afraid of. They basically treated this like any other MCU film, for better or worse, but they didn't put stupid crap in there to ruin the movie. Like the stuff in the trailer, the trailer is more detrimental than it is good. So be careful if you think the trailer is, the tone of the movie is not in this trailer. It's completely different.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds like we have a bunch of positive things, but there's one thing I do want to say is I think Spider-Man, effects-wise, has looked better. I thought he looked a little fake.
Some parts, yeah, but I think it's more to do with Sony, or excuse me, not Sony, but Marvel Studios more than anything, because they have they're very tight with their budget. They want to make sure that they can make all these movies, so they have to spend it wisely.
Well, they hire ILM.
I was gonna say they're also burning $1 billion on Infinity War, so
exactly.
Yeah, but they hired ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, who does Star Wars, and I just thought Spider-Man looked a little fake in his movements. I'm not saying it looked bad, but Spider-Man looked better. Spider-Man moved more realistically in Spider-Man 2, which was 13 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I'm not, and I watched that movie the other day, so it's not like I'm trying to remember shit from all those years ago. Like the train sequence from the moment he swings in on Doc Ock up on the tower, that to me looked more realistic than the movement of Spider-Man in this movie. The lighting was kind of weird, and he seemed too weightless.
There was
it was a little rubbery.
I was gonna say there was a moment, and without spoilers, of course. I was going to say it was one of my least favorite parts of the movie is one of the big action sequences. So, it's just the graphics, it took me out of it.
Well, we've hit the 10-minute marker, so listeners, thank you if you've made it this far. We all suggest you go out and see Spider-Man Homecoming. It was a surprising film. I hope it is successful enough to warrant more in this line of Spider-Man and not the tangent Sony Spider-Verse that they're trying to produce with Venom and Silver Sable and the Black Cat and maybe the Aunt May spy movie. Like, all those movies, just wipe them off the slate. Stick with this. There are a ton of setups for future Spider-Man films. There's all kinds of stuff in there. So if you like Spider-Man, you'll enjoy it. If you don't like Spider-Man but you enjoy superhero movies, you should enjoy this too. And if you're an old Batman fan of Michael Keaton is better in this than anything he's been in a long time. And I'm even going to go Birdman. Like, I got the Blu-ray of Birdman. I like that movie a lot. Kind of a weird movie. This is Michael Keaton as I feel like he should be nowadays. A bad guy. He's evil. Like, he's really good.
Oh yeah, he's really good at that.
I'll disagree with you. I didn't like Michael Keaton in this film.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that when we get into the spoiler section. So, if you don't want anything spoiled, this is where you cut it off. Thanks for watching. Make sure to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. If you can, help us out over on Patreon. We've got a ton of perks. Next week, we'll be discussing all those and the thank yous and all the new questions and stuff like that. Also, if you can't afford to throw some money our way to help the channel grow, do us one favor that helps us grow just as much. Please, head on over to iTunes, give us 5-star reviews, tell us what you think of the podcast. It helps us become more searchable. Thus, we can grow to a wider audience, bring in more eyes, grow the channel, and bring more entertainment to you people. So, thank you, and the spoilers will start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the spoiler section of our Spider-Man Homecoming review. I'm your same host, and everyone's the same person, so let's get into this. So,
wait, I'm different.
No, I'm a different person.
Yeah, right. I changed colors.
Are you Carlos Spicy Wiener?
He's Dion.
You ain't black. Okay, so, Phil, you were saying that you weren't a fan of Michael Keaton. Please tell us what you did not like about him.
I don't know. I got this. I just didn't like him. He seemed... I don't know, maybe I'm not a huge Michael Keaton fan because when I watch this film, I sit there and I'm like, he seems like he doesn't want to be there. Up until... I'd say up until the moment where where Peter walks into the house or knocks on the door and sees him when he opens the door, I didn't believe anything from him up until that point.
I liked that he underplayed it as opposed to somebody like Mickey Rourke in Iron Man 2, or who else overplayed their role?
Willem Dafoe in the first Spider-Man.
I like that, though. That's, to me, like, I'm only judging this on other MCU.
Right.
Because if we're going to take, like, the Spider-Man... Like, to me, if you want to accurately judge Spider-Man as a film, like the first two, you should really be putting it up against films like the original Superman, Batman 89, X-Men, and stuff that came out pre-Dark Knight, honestly. Even Iron Man is in that weird... It is the beginning of the MCU, but it's in that, like, before universe-building shit. And those movies were made in a different time with different sensibilities.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was just commenting as to, different actors here, but if we're going with MCU, probably another person who kind of overplays it a little bit is Tom Hiddleston for Loki. Can sometimes be too Shakespearean in his delivery, which I find charming, and I find he's supposed to be the god of mischief and everything, but I think that in this movie with Keaton, I think that he did a really good job of kind of like showing that he's this rough killer, and then you see him at home and you're like, this is not the same guy we spent an hour and a half with for this last kind of story beat to happen. It's just to see him be all man of the house and trying to be the tough dad, and then really becoming the tough dad.
See, I was gonna say I don't agree with that, because when you see Michael Keaton, yeah, you can see a little bit of an emotion when the lady comes in and they take over the project of breaking up all the alien ships and stuff. Mm-hmm. When he punches the guy, he gets that's genuine upset. But everything after that, up until like for instance, when he killed the guy, when he picked up the gun and he thought it was just a gravity gun, he said, mm-hmm. He ended up vaporizing the guy, turning him into ash, and he showed no emotion. Like he didn't act surprised. He was clearly supposed to be surprised, because he even said, "I thought that was the gravity gun." It felt like he played it off too much.
I think it was nice that he didn't try to play it for a laugh, because normally every one of these villains is like, oh, blah blah blah, pause, wait for laughter. This one was just like, oh shit, he killed this guy. He is not fucking around anymore. And speaking of that, I was surprised to see the Shocker in this movie. I'm glad we had the original Herman Schultz Shocker and whoever that black dude was. It made sense that there were two versions.
Well, from what I understand, he was the black dude was the original, was Herman Schultz, and then there was the first guy.
How many black dudes do you know named Herman Schultz? That is the whitest name there is.
I don't know any black dudes named Herman. So
wait, wasn't there a guy named Herman Cain? Isn't he a politician or something?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, there's a Herman, but I don't know Herman Schultz. There's Charles Schultz. He's dead, but one thing that was nice though is that Dave, you can back me up on this. The Vulture's a pretty lame villain.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
I know a lot of listeners out there like to claim to be Spider-Man fans, but the Vulture is really weak. in issue number 45 or something, he's laid up in prison injured, so some dude just steals his equipment and takes the role of the Vulture. The guy's name was Blackie Drago. The Vulture's a lame old dude. He's not this cool, menacing character that you may think you saw in a cartoon once or something. No, the Vulture's pretty weak. For the most part, he was lame from he's in the second issue of Spider-Man, so issue 2 to 1993 when he got the what was it, the Life Force thing where they touch you and suck your life force?
That was the Tablet of Time or something like that. I think that was what was going on. Well, I think that's because they were working in the comic at the same time. The cartoon is what I mean, the 90s cartoon. And he had the Tablet of Time that allowed him to absorb Life Force for a little bit and make him younger. But at the same time, it's still a lame gimmick to make him more 90s. A more 90s villain than like they had the female Doc Ock and things like that, and and things like that. It's just, to me personally, Adrian Toomes as a character has more depth in this movie than he ever has had in his entire comic book run. So just a little bit more of it was more of a personal reason why he's getting into crime, as opposed to, I'm old and I need to make a statement for myself, so I'm going to rob banks dressed as a giant bird.
If the only thing he ever did in the comic of substance is fall in love with Aunt May and then kidnap her. That was maybe 90 in Spectacular Spider-Man. That was a story arc. It's whatever. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just, it exists.
What is with Aunt May
hot this time?
What?
Is that why they made Aunt May hot this time?
Oh, she's hot. I just wish she was an old lady. And I wish J. Jonah Jameson was in... Like, okay, here's my biggest
I was just saying, that
complaint.
was my biggest disappointment of the film, that there was no J. Jonah Jameson.
I was hoping secretly, like, they didn't even put it in the screeners for the press. Like, at the very end of the movie, like, there's something, and we see J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. That would have just set me over the edge. I would have been so happy. Like, I'm already happy, but I would have been gushing, like, this movie's phenomenal, it brings the best of everything, blah, blah, blah. No, it's good, and I like it, and I'm gonna buy it on Blu-ray and watch it again and tell people that if you like Spider-Man to watch this movie. But there are things missing, and my biggest complaint with this movie is the supporting cast. I don't really like the supporting cast. I know...
I agree.
I know that people are like, oh, it's always... Look, the characters should look how they do in the books. I'm a stickler for that. And even if you want to take the ultimate approach, these people don't look like the ultimate versions of the thing. Because, now, Dave, this isn't me directed at you, but like most people I interact with, if they don't understand Spider-Man and they just like something the way it is, well, that's the ultimate version. But I've read the ultimate version, with the exception of the last 30 issues where he dies. Like, okay, so remember when they relaunched his Ultimate Comics Spider-Man #1 and Iceman and all them moved in with him?
Yeah. I
stopped reading around there. I read the first 15 issues and then I was like, I'm at college. I got better things to do than read Spider-Man. So I stopped. But I stuck with Amazing. I just would rather have... Like, Flash Thompson in this movie was a fucking dweeb. He was not imposing, he was not cool, he was not threatening. He was kind of subservient. I did like the scene where Spider-Man stole his car. That made sense. But I wish Flash was the big jock. And I know they were at a science school where everyone's smart, but still, they clearly had sports. They should have made him a bigger, buffer guy and made him more of a threat. Because Peter really didn't face too many social threats. He didn't really get picked on. The girl already liked him. He had a friend, and people respected him and stuff like that. So they kind of took away one of the core character elements of Spider-Man's social life. And Michelle, who called herself MJ, which was the worst part of the movie, she was unlikable. I did not enjoy her character.
I happen to know Michelle, who goes by MJ. But that's neither here nor there. I didn't really have a problem with her. I thought the line delivery that she, for the lines that she had, the delivery was, I would say good. I wouldn't say, I would say for the material that she's given, especially for the little time that she has, I've seen her do worse acting. I'll be honest. I'm one of those people that will tune into the Disney Channel every now and then, and I happened to catch one of her shows, and it was. Compared to this is a Shakespeare in Homecoming versus what she had to do on the Disney Channel. So I'd say that this is an improvement for her. I'd say the big thing that I have a problem with is kind of the in-universe jokes. We have to have this person, so he's going to be this guy. Like Scorpion, Matt Gargan. You could have just said Matt Gargan. You could not have had the Scorpion tattooed, and then that could have been a lead into, Homecoming 2, which is the tentative title. But
dude, that's the first thing I said to. That's what I said to Dan when we were watching the movie, and they're like, "This is Matt Gargan." I go, "That's the Scorpion," and then they show a scorpion on his neck. It's like, oh well. Forget. And there was one part I did say to Dan when Spider-Man ran through the backyard. I was like, it's like Ferris, and before I could say Bueller, they're showing the movie. And I was like,
exactly,
oh.
Yeah.
But that was funny.
Yeah.
So, I missed that part then. So, was Scorpion the guy that Michael Keaton was talking to in the prison in the cutscene?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know who that was.
Well, I think they're trying to set up a Sinister Six down the road.
Which
they've talked about that for the longest time.
But I could see more logical leap here for that than with the Amazing Spider-Man or even the first series of Spider-Man movies, where you have the Green Goblin, but he's dead. You have Doc Ock, he's dead.
Well, remember, the Green Goblin wasn't in the original Sinister Six, so...
Right. I remember that, yeah.
No, but I'm with you about...
I'm remembering more the cartoon.
I'm just saying, I'm with you, though. They did kill off all the villains, which in Spider-Man 1 and 2, I think it worked out perfectly, because the Green Goblin killed himself just like he did in the comic book. When Osborn hit himself in the chest, That's one thing I don't think a lot of people get with the first Spider-Man movie. They see, like, oh, Tobey Maguire cries. Well, guess what? Your boy, Tom Holland, cries in this movie, too, okay? He cries just as much as Tobey Maguire in the first Spider-Man movie. And Tobey Maguire only cried when Uncle Ben died. This kid cries because life's too hard. So I'm fine with him crying in both films. They're normal human emotions. The only people that shouldn't cry in a movie are The Rock and James Bond. Other than that, people can cry. Maybe Indiana Jones. He shouldn't cry either.
He's gonna cry at Jumanji.
I would be pissed.
That trailer was so bad.
We'll get into that. No, but the imagery in the first Spider-Man movie hit, like, basically, if there was one Spider-Man movie you should ever watch, it should be the first one. You get the origin, you get the birth of the hero, and you get the big, the big villain, and then he dies like he does in the book, and you get the night that Gwen Stacy died moment with the bridge, but it's replaced with Mary Jane and all that. You had good action. And then that fight, like, the fight between the Green Goblin and the Spider-Man, and the fight between Spider-Man and the Vulture in this movie were very similar to me, and, like, the movie was fun up until that point, and then it got dead serious. And I like that. I'm glad they brought that back.
Yeah. I like that this is that Peter is using his brain more in this movie, and than with with the first Spider-Man movie, we get it. He's a genius. He's a math genius. He's a science whiz. He does this. It's telling him that he's this genius. He's this, or they're commenting on his genius. We don't really see that because his webs come out of his wrist. He doesn't have to invent a web shooter. This, you kind of see him putting together the web fluid. You see exactly, where he hides the suit, which I thought was a great idea of just like hiding it under lockers because he can lift the lockers. You have he's putting things together. He's not. The one thing I've always wanted to see in a Spider-Man movie we actually got, which was the Spider Tracers. We never got a Spider Tracer in any of these Spider-Man movies going up until this point, which I love the idea of a Spider Tracer. It doesn't work the same way as in the comics. It kind of apes more towards the 70s movie series or TV series that was on NBC for a while, and also more the 90s Spider-Man cartoon where it's an actual tracking beacon here. I will say, for the gripes that I have, it's more along the lines of he could have done more to, the fact that he had to have the suit come off towards the end of the movie, the tech suit, and then just go back to his original suit to beat the villain. I don't know. I didn't really like that idea. If that big scene with the ferry happened earlier in the movie, I think that would have made a little bit more of an interesting arc. And then he finally earns back the suit here, and he has to fight the Vulture in the new suit with the training wheels protocol taken off, and But that's just me. That's the writer in me trying to reorganize things. But overall, I still enjoy the movie. I still would love to see it again. I still have to see it again because there is a need to see it again.
Tell me you already bought the tickets.
Not yet, but soon. I haven't decided which theater I'm going to.
See, I think they wrote it just right. I like the way they did it because, it brought that whole message forward where, if you're nothing without the suit, then you don't deserve the suit. And he proved Tony wrong. He took down the Vulture without that suit.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not stating that that's not the. I get that, and you keep all that there, but just have a more extended period without that suit because he's got that high tech suit for a long time, and then the last action beat, he doesn't have that high tech suit.
I would have liked if his original homemade suit looked better because it looks like shit.
Well, it does. Well, it's he's
but
the 15-year-old in Queens.
I was going to say the hoodie and sweatpants.
Yeah, but when Spider-Man wore a hoodie and sweatpants in the original Spider-Man film, that looked cool. He literally took a red sweatshirt and a Sharpie marker and drew a spider pattern, and it looked neat. When he wrestles Macho Man Randy Savage, that looks cool. This
don't you mean Bonesaw?
Bonesaw is ready. Like, I love that part. I do wish
3 minutes. You ain't going
nowhere. I wish they would have incorporated the wrestling element still in Spider-Man's origin. Like, I hate the Amazing Spider-Man movies, but at least they ripped that directly off the Ultimate one, where he fell through and saw the logo or whatever. Isn't that where he got the suit in the comics too?
No, in the Ultimate he actually got a wrestling gig, and he got the red and blue suit, but without the webs or the spider.
Didn't one of the wrestler, like the promoter, give him a suit because he needed a gimmick or something?
They gave him the suit. The promoter gave him the suit, but they didn't. It wasn't like the complete suit. It was still missing the webs and things like that. And he still hadn't invented web shooters at that point.
Yeah, I have I have most of the issues of Ultimate Spider-Man, and I read them when they I had the first issue. I bought it when it was brand new, and I just kept it in the box because it was a #1. I bought it at Media Play. If anyone remembers Media Play, that'll take you back. I also had the opportunity to buy the 9/11 issue of Spider-Man, but I didn't. So that was a mistake.
I also had that opportunity, but I was poor.
Well, I went back and bought it at a half-price bookstore for $15, so I have 2 copies of Spider-Man number 36.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my collection's pretty strong. I love to talk to people on the internet about Spider-Man because you and I are in the same boat where we have so much of the knowledge, not just one version, and our knowledge doesn't come from the cartoon. You can clearly tell when you discuss Spider-Man with someone, if they're like, well, I watched the cartoon, you know what comes from the cartoon, what comes from the comic book, and what comes from the Ultimate Universe. And it's funny how people like to tout themselves as these experts by watching the 94 cartoon, or they read Wikipedia or something, but Wikipedia doesn't really get into the nitty-gritty. And the thing is, reading the books is fun. It's not like you gotta read Dostoevsky or something really deep. It's, Spider-Man, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. It's fun. It's a comic.
Another thing I liked about this movie is the fact that when the Vulture buried him under the, all that rubble, and he had to, dig deep and, lift all that, it's so iconic of, a Steve Ditko page of just, lifting heavy objects. That's everyone
the
sees that
saga.
Exactly. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think it's Spider-Man number 35 when he's down there fighting Doc Ock and the ceiling falls on him and he's thinking about Uncle Ben. That would have been a cool moment to where you see Uncle Ben or hear his voice or something. The great power, great responsibility line, which isn't in this film at all. Neither is the Spider-Sense, which pissed me off, but we'll get into that later. That scene, though, Dave, man, that was probably my favorite part of the whole movie, when he looks into the reflection and he sees half of his mask and his face. That is the thing. Those are the 2 things that this movie does that no other Spider-Man movie has even attempted to do.
Exactly. Man, I was just... I just can't say enough about this movie. This is really good, fun time here. And it's a fun Marvel movie to distract from, the somewhat lackluster Marvel movies that have happened, especially with Spider-Man. I'm all for. I love these different incarnations, and I think I've even talked to you when Amazing Spider-Man first came out here. I always look at it as, whenever someone is doing it, it's like a new run on a book. Who's putting down the inks, who's putting down the colors, who's putting down the letters, who's writing the book. That's kind of my idea. That's how I kind of approach a lot of things here, but sometimes there's been lackluster runs. But ultimately, I really dig this Spider-Man story.
Yeah, and I dig it too, more than I thought I would. I still have my complaints. It's not the game changer like the first Spider-Man film was, and even the second one. I mean, I got interviewed by a local podcast called Iconic Comics. They're cool. Check them out. You'll see me. If anyone wants to know what I actually look like, I'm on their video. But the first Spider-Man, the hype is unparalleled, with the exception of the Phantom Menace. And my lifetime, there has never been more hype. People would say, well, Episode 7 made all this money. That's great. The hype for the first Spider-Man movie outdid Episode 7. I was alive for both of them I was in double digits. It wasn't like I was a little kid and I was like, "Yay, Spider-Man! I can't wait." No, I remember like the world was in a weird place because it was post 9/11. It was kind of dark. There was nothing. They didn't put out comedies for a while. It was a real different time. And this movie coming out, people were like really invested in it. And this was like the thing to like kind of suck us out of not a depression, but like what do I say it? Emotional. I'm not saying the country was bereft emotionally based on just one thing, but it was a kind of like a nice like break from the dark times. And then you had Star Wars come out, and you had a couple other things come out, and it kind of just kept it going where we kind of got back to normalcy. And Spider-Man was like the first big post 9/11 movie. And even in the movie, there's that scene where they're on the bridge when you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. It's a hokey scene, but back then it was really powerful, and that's why I don't really jump when people are like, "Oh, that scene sucks." Back then it didn't suck. That was like kind of what the movie needed to set it over the edge to become even more than it was.
Exactly, and no, the whole idea of Spider-Man. There are tons of superheroes that are based in New York, especially with Marvel. But there's only one New York superhero, in my opinion, and that's Spider-Man, because he's a true New Yorker, true person that will, even that comic that I did, the 9/11 comic, while it was something that was affected him and affected everybody, so with the Spider-Man 1 coming out here and having the Spider-Man, having the New Yorker.
Phil, dude, you got whatever you're doing. You are making way too much noise.
I'm not doing anything.
Aren't you dragging your mic?
No.
Okay, back to where we were. Anyway, Dave, go ahead.
Sorry.
It's okay. I was just stating, I totally agree, with that whole scene on the bridge with, you mess with Spider-Man, you mess with New York, because I felt like that since I was a kid. I grew up in the East Coast area, and I always thought Spider-Man was, just like 2 hours on a train down the road there, in the city. So to see like that kind of reflected in the movie, that's another thing that I love about. I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here, but one of the things that I love about the Sam Raimi movies, is that he is a Spider-Man fan. He grew up reading the comics, so he understands the character. He understands that this is his base of operations. Batman has Gotham City, which is supposed to be a New York analog, which is actually in New Jersey. Superman has Metropolis, which nobody knows where that is. It could be in Kansas, it could be wherever. According to DC Universe, across the bay from Gotham. But Spider-Man was kind of the most realistic super.
Dave? Okay, Dave cut out. I guess he was going to say that he was the most realistic superhero, and I agree. Phil, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I thought the call dropped out again.
No, I guess Dave's call dropped out. If we can get him back, we will. No, Spider-Man does kind of sit in a special place because he's not like, I'm going to go meet him tomorrow, but he's a down-to-earth person who's the most relatable, because anyone that reads the books could be in that situation in life, minus the superpowers. Everyone has bad days, everyone has good days. Dave, are you back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. You cut out for a minute. Do you remember where you were?
Oh, I didn't know I would cut out.
Yeah, you cut out when you were saying about how Spider-Man seems to be the most believable hero. Yeah,
well, I was more going with the whole idea with Sam Raimi's storylines and in his, the first two movies really did depict that whole struggling Peter Parker, and this movie really does a good job of the whole high school Peter Parker. Yes, not so much being beat up by Flash, but I really don't think that Flash could beat anybody up, to be honest with you.
Yeah, then Flash was a wuss.
And I have encountered my share of bullies. I'm not afraid to admit that. but one of the things that I've had that type of bully where it's just like words that will cut you, versus a guy who will take you outside and beat you half to death. But what I was saying more was the relatableness of the character versus someone who is like Batman, who is considered a real person without any powers, but battles gods on a daily basis, versus Spider-Man, who has all these powers here and still can't hold down his own job. That's the one thing. Bruce Wayne doesn't have to punch a card. He just has to say, "I bought your entire building."
Yeah. The hotel with the models.
Yes, exactly.
Well, one thing I think this movie did finally, well, not finally, but for the first time in 10 years, they made Peter Parker likable. No matter what anyone says about Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, Peter Parker was a douchey guy, and he was unlikable. And he did the one thing that Peter Parker never does, and that's yell at Aunt May. Even in any iteration of Spider-Man movie prior to those, comic books, cartoons, Aunt May is where his life as Spider-Man is never as important as Aunt May, and Aunt May never gets yelled at. Maybe she gets put in danger, but he always treats her with respect. That Spider-Man did not. He storms off. He has temper tantrums. He breaks the door. I'm glad we're out of that phase. Back then they were trying to make Spider-Man so cool and hip, and the character's inherently cool, and this one got what made him cool back. He came back to where he should be. And you brought up high school Peter Parker. I'll admit I'm not the biggest Spider-Man in high school fan, because we did the math on a previous episode. If you just go by Amazing Spider-Man, the comic book standards, 4.5% of the entire run of Spider-Man's existence is in high school. I think it's issue 36? No, even earlier than that. Maybe it's issue 34 or 5, but he's out of high school early on. We're talking in the first couple years. Steve Ditko still drew those issues. Mm-hmm. And by the time Romita took over, he was in high school. And Gwen Stacy had been introduced, and Harry Osborn and stuff like that. Now, see, I'm hoping that they stick with more traditional casting when we bring in the Osborns and Gwen Stacy and the real Mary Jane and all that stuff. I'm hoping that we get that cast down the road. I'm not saying we need Gwen in the next movie. Actually, I don't want him to meet any of these people until he's out of high school. I'd like, for something dramatic to happen. Maybe his Asian friend, Ned Leeds, I guess that's who it is in the movie. I'm hoping Ned Leeds dies. I was hoping he died in this movie because I want Peter to take being Spider-Man more seriously and have that level of responsibility, because in the book and in every other form of media, Spider-Man, Peter Parker has to lose for Spider-Man to win and do the right thing, and I kind of would like that in a movie. Again, we had that in Spider-Man 1 where he walks away from the girl because of his responsibility, and in 2... we didn't get that. He kind of embraced, I can have a life with her and, be Spider-Man, and then...
Exactly. And I think he did kind of lose first. Spider-Man did win and stop the Vulture, but he lost, Liz, and he lost a friend, at the very least a friend, and still not really getting a whole lot of respect at school. While he is respected for his genius, he's not as respected in school because he's constantly flaking on things. He has to leave. The last scene with Zendaya is where are you going, Peter? And he's I don't care. But which I thought was funny. I agree with you there. Where Peter has to give up something in order to, and even in Spider-Man 2, he kind of. In the first Spider-Man 2, he got everything that he wanted, being Spider-Man and anything that Peter Parker needed. He got Mary Jane. It took him Spider-Man 3 to lose her, but I would say, I agree with you there. Where you have to have that balance there with for one to win, the other has to lose. He can't always have what he wants.
He did give up something, though, because his whole thing throughout the movie, he wanted to be an Avenger. That was his whole thing. And then they brought him in, and Tony wanted to make him an Avenger and make an announcement that Spider-Man was the next Avenger. And he gave that up at the end of the movie, because he knew that wasn't the right path.
He wasn't ready.
Well, no, that's like a choice he makes. Normally, what we're talking about, like the books, like, okay, we'll go back, an early issue. Maybe it's like issue 11 or something. Okay, here's my biggest complaint with this movie. Betty Brant is a girl in high school that works for the school news. That bothered me. That's the first thing I said to Dan. I was like, what the fuck? Like, she's supposed to be an older woman that works for J. Jonah Jameson's secretary, is Betty Brant. And there's always that interesting dynamic of him falling for an older woman. That's his first real girlfriend in the books. I know he's interested in Liz Allen, but they don't ever really go out because Flash is always there. And so he ends up going out with Betty Brant, and she's like, she gets into the picture, and the people from high school realize that, oh, Peter's got an older girlfriend and stuff like that. And then I think Aunt May has a talk with her, and then that kind of just dies out and they become friends, and she marries Ned Leeds and all that shit. But that's neither here nor there. But no, normally Peter Parker has to, like, lose something. It's taken away not by choice. Like in the book, him and Betty Brant are in an item, and then her brother dies while Spider-Man's in action. So that creates a rift between she hates Spider-Man but loves Peter. So Peter, like, it's the same thing with Gwen Stacy. When Captain Stacy dies at the hands of Doc Ock and Spider-Man's trying to save him, Gwen thinks it was Spider-Man's fault. So Peter has to deal with the guilt of thinking that Gwen hates him because of, hates Spider-Man, but doesn't realize it's him. It's those kind of dynamics aren't in the movies anymore because we don't keep his secret identity.
Yeah, and I would say the secret identity. I agree to an extent, but I also kind of like that he has more than one person to confide in. I'm more of that person of kind of going off a different different superhero series. I like the teams that the CW shows have, like Team Arrow and Team Flash. More Team Flash than Team Arrow. But just how, they interact off each other. Now, granted, Ned is now the guy in the chair, but he was only in the chair for a few minutes. But he, but what I like about Aunt May knowing is kind of, she could help with excuses. Peter has to be excused for, death in the family or something like that, or she has to, she can come up with notes, and they're coming from an authority figure, and so because he's in high school, the school can take that as, oh, okay, at least there's a valid reason for him not being there.
But that takes away all
I disagree, because that Aunt May would not want him to do any of that stuff.
That's true too. Yeah, I agree.
And that takes away all the drama. Like, you talk about him flaking out all the time. I like when no one could know, because it's like, why are you such a piece of shit, Peter? You seem like a good guy. He just can't tell, but the audience knows. It's like, we're in on the secret. But now that all these people are going to start knowing the secret, it's like, well, that's another aspect of his character they take away. Everyone knows Iron Man is Tony Stark, and that's fine. He's a celebrity. But Spider-Man should be known by... I'm fine with Iron Man knowing, and Happy Hogan, and that's about it. No Ned, no definitely not Aunt May, because like Phil says, she's not going to let him go off and fight crime, and that's just going to be another girl. Like, eventually a girlfriend's going to find out, and they're going to be waiting on him, and that's shit that shouldn't happen until Mary Jane's in the picture, and Spider-Man's married for years, and Aunt May can know then if they ever live in Avengers Tower. But Kid Spider-Man should keep this on a down low, and just,
Well, and again, the movie hasn't been written, really, so we really don't know what the response will be from Aunt May here. Obviously, it's going to be something more of just... I would like to see kind of like similar to in Spider-Man 2, where he kind of confesses that the reason Uncle Ben died was because he didn't stop a wrestler, or he didn't stop the guy who stole from the wrestling match. Which, I kind of want to see, kind of like a coming to terms with, this is the reason why I do it, because I messed up, and because of that, your husband is dead here, and my father figure is dead here, and I'm trying to make it right. And so she can kind of understand that, but at the same time, hate that he's doing it because it's putting another person that she loves in danger. And that's just me thinking about the actual dynamics between the characters.
I was going to say, in this version, then in this version, and then that's gone because we don't know anything about Uncle Ben. We didn't see that story. So,
well, there has
obviously
been like
it's there, I'm sure, but you know, in this version, we don't know what happened. You know,
right? Exactly. You know, we don't know what happened to cause him to be Spider-Man with Uncle Ben. That obviously, you know, anytime that you have a Spider-Man origin story, it's going to have, you know, there are two things that can happen. That's going to happen. Peter gets bit by a spider, and Uncle Ben dies. Those are the two big things that happen with that, and that's where he learns that with great power comes great responsibility. With either the robber that got away, or it's either a rob, you know, from the wrestling match, or from like just pure coincidence. I'm kind of running out of steam here, but you know, I understand what you're saying there, where we don't know what happened there, but it's going to be something interesting to explore, I think, for the characters.
I think we're going to get a Mary Jane in Spider-Man 3 vibe, where all she does is bitch and nag about Peter being Spider-Man, and then it's going to just be a drain for the audience, because we're supposed to live vicariously through Peter. There's supposed to be, like, action, excitement, you know, the suspense of, like, oh, am I going to get caught? You know, like, that, him confiding in anything, like, remember, I'm going basically off of 616 Classic Spider-Man, where no one knew.
Yeah.
Eventually, Mary Jane claims to have always known, and that's fine, but that's years down the road. And in this universe, that can't happen, because Aunt May lives in an apartment, not in a house in Queens. So it'd be interesting if they move to Queens in the next movie, or maybe Peter makes some money doing something, they move to Queens. Then you can include the real Mary Jane, but I'd wait till they're a little older. But my point is that, like I always keep going on about, the drama and that big reveal that can happen in 5 years is never going to happen. Because you brought it up as we left the theater tonight, Dave, about how when J. Michael Straczynski wrote it, Aunt May finds out. Yeah, but that was over 40 years after the character had existed. And yes, it was rebooted in, when did it reboot?
It was retcon.
99?
It was retcon One More Day. I forget. I think it was...
No, prior to that, because One More Day is 07. Aunt May died in issue 400. But she wasn't really dead, though, remember? She was like a clone or some shit.
Right, that was the Doc Ock, the one that was going to marry Doc Ock, I think. The clone. It was like
after a while, it's hard to keep up with these.
Yeah. It's so many stories, so many crazy stories here. I would like to see the Chameleon in another one and have it be Peter's parents and them being chameleon robots or something like that. I would love to see that kind of idea, you know, something that they had in the Maximum Carnage storyline here, but, you know, a different way of, like, introducing Peter's parents other than just flashbacks and we did something kind of wrong, but not really.
Maybe you could have because remember, in the books, his parents were eventually considered traitors by the government.
Exactly.
In the comic book, or the cartoon, it was S.H.I.E.L.D. Maybe you could have them interact with, like, I don't know, Hank Pym could have known them or something like that. They could have been involved with the building of the Triskelion or something, just in passing. You don't even have to... Honestly, if you never mention them, that's fine, because they didn't appear at all until Spider-Man Annual number 5, when they're just shown as a little picture, and then they're never mentioned again until the 1990s for like 30 more years. So I know people like to say, well, you know, Spider-Man's parents are an important part. Not really. Aunt May's his mom. When Aunt May got married to J. Jonah Jameson's dad, he's like, thanks, Mom. And that was like the nicest moment in the entire book. That's his, you know, maybe not his birth mother, but that's his mom. And, you know, I don't think we need to explore... That's where the Amazing Spider-Man franchise fell off, because it tried to go, well, in the Sam Raimi ones, they did this, so we're going to do this and this and this. And this one, Homecoming, is like, look, everything from Amazing sucked. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to formula, and we're going to go create the definitive Spider-Man that we can make for many, many years. Hopefully, in Homecoming 2, or whatever the film will be called, they can explain their way out of Aunt May knowing. Like, I'd like if he's like, it's just a joke, blah, 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 or something.
Right.
So they can just kind of forget about it, because I think that was the biggest mistake of that whole movie.
Well, and
I did like that end scene though, where they cut it off, and she's like, "What the fuck?"
I think they sacrificed stuff just for a joke.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I kind of like about that idea of what you're saying about walking back the reveal and him just kind of like, oh, it's a joke, It's not like when Ned found out where he's on the ceiling and he's, spinning webs and things like that, and then he's like, oh yeah, you're definitely Spider-Man. Where Aunt May could just say, what, where did you get that? What is that? What? And it's like, oh, it's, there's the costume formal thing that, and Mr. Stark made it for me because he felt sorry about, the internship and letting me go from the internship. And so he made this for me because I'm a big fan of Spider-Man. And that could be there's different ways around it. Definitely.
Yeah, because that happened way back in the Ditko issues where Aunt May found a Spider-Man costume in the house. And she threw it out. So Peter had to go buy one from a costume store, and he's fighting, I think he's fighting Doc Ock, or it gets wet. The suit gets wet, and it shrinks on him. So he's stuck wearing, like, an ill-fitting suit, like it's riding up the legs, the arms are all shriveled up, the mask still fits, but it's that, they could go that approach, and I would be like, well, okay. And I wouldn't complain about it.
Yeah, and ultimately, these movies are entertainment, pure and simple. As much as we like to geek and make, we need this to be a certain way. I'm of the mind of entertain me first. Then, if I have a problem, I will be upset with it. If you fail to entertain me, I'll be pissed off. But plus, I think it's more of a one of the big things that I love about the MCU and also with this version of the character is it's more lighthearted and it's more like those John Hughes movies than from the 80s about teenagers coming of age and things like that, where than the Tobey Maguire ones, and because he's not going to pass for a sophomore in high school. We can't get him into the next year. He's not going to go into junior year in the sequel. We have to get him out of high school and into college as soon as possible. Because Tobey Maguire is Tobey Maguire. But with Tom Holland and the idea of, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling again. I'm just trying to come up with the best way of saying.
Remember, this is a podcast. People listen to it. It's long-form entertainment. So if you got a point to make, please go. This is lining up to be one of our shortest episodes ever. So don't feel like you're. I mean, we got a lot of people that really like Spider-Man. This is all relevant. It's not like we're sitting here and talking about how to manufacture boat oars or something stupid. So
right,
please.
So, getting back kind of on track here, it's more. I'm of the mindset of, if you have failed in entertaining me, I'm going to, I'm not going to see it again here. But, I'm very interested in seeing what they're going to do next with this character, especially in the high school setting. Because, like you said, it's only been 1%, or, a certain percentage of the actual run was in high school. But at the same time, after he left high school, fans were writing in letter pages that, why did you leave high school, when beforehand they were like, get him out of high school, we don't want him in high school. So fans are fickle. So my end all be all point is entertainment first, then I'll let you know if it sucks.
Well, Dave, the high school thing though, the best stories from Spider-Man came post high school.
Yeah,
and I think you got guys like Joe Quesada, who over in the publication front focused on Young Spider-Man, and they were focused on Ultimate because I guess it's successful. I don't know what the sales figures are, but Ultimate ended. Amazing Spider-Man never has ended. Even when they relaunched it in 1998 with the whole John Byrne run. I mean, that book has never stopped existing. Ultimate's dead and gone, and I love how they keep trying to mine from this Ultimate Universe. The Ultimate Universe is not... this plethora of original ideas. It's just a quick update to a lot of classic storylines. I mean, Spider-Man in the Ultimate Universe still fights Venom and Carnage and deals with Doc Ock and the Vulture. Well, in this version, Doc Ock has an ex-wife and he goes and kills her. When in the other book, he has mother issues. Like, they just do small, superficial changes. That's why I really get not upset, but I get strongly annoyed when people just try to, like, quote the Ultimate Universe as a thing that's never, that they've never experienced.
Right. Well, I really love, I'm one of those people who, sorry, let me kind of gather things here. I understand what you're saying here. I like the Ultimate Universe when it came out, and I do kind of like the twists and turns that they did. But yeah, like you said, it's kind of the same stories being retold. But I think that happens in comics all the time, with especially. But I think they were trying to do something other than a reprint because they didn't want to, have to go back and find the book and reprint it and then say, and then people are like, well, why should I care about this? They want the fancy colors, they want the Brian Michael Bendis writing, and also if you look at like the special thanks at the end of this movie, the first person on there is Brian Michael Bendis on that for this movie specifically. So that's probably why they keep trying to mine the Ultimate Universe, because he had the biggest hand in that universe.
Well, what's nice, though, is that at the end of that special thank you, it was a special thank you to John Romita, who is my favorite artist, so that was nice to see his name on there. Because, like, Spider-Man 2 paid homage to him with the part where he throws the suit into the garbage and walks away.
The Spider-Man No More. Yeah,
they have never mimicked a comic book panel as well as they did in that movie. Maybe in Civil War, when Cap and Iron Man are fighting in the Siberian fortress at the very end, when they replicate the Civil War cover. But other than that, everything else is just like, it's a cool image on screen. No, in Spider-Man 2, they literally just, it's like they almost, they framed it perfectly, the garbage can is so many feet from the wall, and this and that, and Peter's got to be so far away, and they even got the suit in there at the way it wrinkles, and everything's just so perfectly done. And that was cool to see my favorite, artist get a little credit.
Yeah.
One thing I did like that this movie did do is it wasn't, like, okay, real quick, we always talk about Ultimate Universe. The reason I'm not an Ultimate Universe fan is two reasons. One, there's a lot of headshots and a lot of talking. I don't care about Peter Parker's life in high school. That's not interesting. And the number two reason why is because high school was fine for me, but I've moved on quick. I went to college, I got to live a cool, crazy life, and, I'm doing this now. High school was just 4 years that had to exist. It wasn't hard for me. I didn't have all this drama, all this dumb bullshit. I didn't have problems with teachers. So when I read stories like that, it's like, it's that to me is less relatable and believable than Spider-Man climbing on walls and having superpowers. To me, that's just because I lived through those things, and I'm like, this isn't how it's like at all. But then I could watch a movie that's why I like 21 Jump Street so much too, because it relates to me personally, because I feel disconnected from people a couple of years younger. And with the Spider-Man Ultimate stuff, it's like, well, I went to high school. High school's not like this.
To me, especially, you and I had two different paths there, because I was bullied constantly, and I had to deal with, I had crushes that did not reciprocate, so.
Well, Dave, I went to an all-boys high school, so it was a different experience.
Well, sure, probably a different.
There were no crushes involved in high school.
Well, I understand that completely, but I'm just stating, my personal experience. That's why I kind of relate more to the high school Peter Parker stuff than the college stuff, because I really didn't have a typical college experience. I went to a community college. I commuted via train for about 2.5 years to get a degree that really did wonders for my personal career, he said sarcastically. But, with me, getting into that whole, that there's something that is inside you that if these other people saw it, they would just say, oh, yeah, that's the guy. That's why why have we been picking on him all this time? But at the same time, you don't show that because you're afraid or you feel like somebody's going to get hurt if you do that. I wasn't Spider-Man, but I had the art thing. I had teasing for other reasons there that I won't get into here, but and also the constant dealing with your emotions and trying to figure out you like this person and they don't like you back, like this girl in school and they don't care for they say, well, you're like a brother to me, and it's like, no, that doesn't do anything for me. So and getting bullied constantly and just trying to deal with and then just trying to come home and not have to worry about the stress of it, and still having to put in that 8-hour page that 8-page report on whatever the teacher has assigned at that point, to that end of Peter Parker more than anything. That's probably why I gravitate more towards the Ultimate line, because it focused more on that, tortured high school student Peter Parker than anything.
I think for entertainment, I never am worried about entertainment that is about where I am, with the exception of the 21 Jump Street thing. I like entertainment that's where I would like to be. And I mean,
right.
Adult Peter Parker's cool. He's living in New York. He's got his own place. He's got superpowers. Contrary to popular belief, he's got a lot of girlfriends, and he's getting it on. There's obviously Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy. There was Betty Brant. There was a model that was into him for a while back when the Hobgoblin first appeared. He had those 2 girls that lived in his building that kind of liked him, and it was just
Felicia Hardy.
It was fun. Yeah, Felicia Hardy, he had that dual relationship with her as Spider-Man and stuff, and I think Mary Jane was interested in him as Peter Parker. That stuff is cool to me. That was more enjoyable. I think there's... Okay, another thing with the Ultimate is that Ultimate's so located in one place. It's like your high school. Well, he fights Venom on the football field. When in the regular universe, he fights him in a bell tower of a church, and Venom's dressed as a priest, and he's got him tied up, and he has to use the bell. That's really cool to me.
Yeah.
Or when him and Venom fight each other to the death on that island, and Spider-Man fakes his own death, and Venom decides to live his existence out on the island in peace, and Peter's holding on to the side of the boat, running for his life, and that kind of stuff. There's so much more that happens in the regular 616 universe that to me, when I read these Ultimate books, it's get over it. The only thing they did in the Ultimate universe that I was floored by is when they went and the real Spider-Man was on the set of the Spider-Man movie from 2002.
Yeah.
And Sam Raimi was there, and Tobey Maguire was there, and all that shit. That, to me, was incredible. Other than that, I enjoy the series enough. I love Mark Bagley's artwork. I think he draws ugly women, but that's not really important to this.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean...
Yeah,
Go ahead, Dave.
Hi there.
Hey.
Have I dropped?
No, you're here.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say is, I agree with what you're saying regarding, that's one thing that, me and my dad always have constant, battles about who's better, Batman or Spider-Man. And then I have to show him the death battle video where Spider-Man basically kills Batman because of his spider sense. But Batman, you don't really see, you got Catwoman, and there's really you don't see a whole lot of love interests for Bruce Wayne, whereas, dorky Peter Parker has, basically women dripping off of him, there's no escape, for him, because he has this air of mystery where Bruce Wayne is just like a aloof playboy who just, oh yes, this model, that model, this model, but there are real relationships that Peter has with these women. So I was like, well, he's got you beat physically and he's got you beat romantically. I don't know what else to say. I know Batman's rich, but that's only matters if money is still important,
Yeah.
But I really love this movie here for a number, for all the reasons I've said previously, and more so. I will definitely be going to see it again. I'm not lying. I'll probably see this more than I have any other Spider-Man movie in theaters. So
I don't think I'll see. Okay, I hate to say it, but I saw Spider-Man 3 like 4 times in theaters. I don't think I'll see it more than that. But I could see myself getting bored one afternoon and just going to catch it at like 2:00 on a Tuesday afternoon or something.
Yeah, and that's fine. I don't really, matinee is still a matinee. They're still getting some sort of money on that end there. So I'm not really. Anytime someone says, "Oh, it's a matinee viewing," it's like, well, you still want you to contribute to that,
And I'd be like, hey, look, I don't owe them anything. As long as I pay for a ticket, I don't care if I see it at 1 p.m., 1 a.m.
Exactly.
Or, I saw it legit. They got my money. I contributed to that box office.
Exactly.
Now, do you think this film will have the same impact as the Spider-Man 1 or 2?
I don't think so, simply because there, like you said before, there was so much hype for those movies. There's like, okay, well, Spider-Man's coming out. When is it coming out? There was even... Superhero Hype was originally Spider-Man Movie Hype.com before it became Superhero Hype. And so it had the countdown clock for when Spider-Man was going to be released, so there was that huge hype for that for the first movie. And then when it did so well, like, well, when's the next movie coming out? And they're just like, and I remember as a kid like in my 20s, watching VH1, and seeing like an interview before Spider-Man 3, or excuse me, for Spider-Man 2, where he's basically saying there's going to be 6 more Spider-Man movies after Spider-Man 2, and they're all going to be released way down the line there, and and then they like rushed out Spider-Man 3, and we all know what happened there. But I don't think this will be as effective for the character, but it will still make money there. It will still make its spot. It will still, if anything, double it or triple its budget, so that way we can get more sequels.
I'm hoping it. We're definitely going to get more sequels, no matter what. I don't think impact-wise, this movie will be as remembered as the first two, because the first two introduced a lot of people to Spider-Man, much like the '94 cartoon introduced a lot of people to Spider-Man. So it's even though I don't consider it the best Spider-Man cartoon by a long shot, it's still it's still the most important one. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows it, at least of our age, within our age group. That's the Spider-Man cartoon. I don't think most people watched the '67 cartoon. They know it for the memes. They know the theme song. Like that, the Spider-Man '67 theme song is awesome. The lyrics have never been topped. But
and I love
the cartoon's better.
I love the orchestral version of that in the beginning of this movie. That also just like I have not heard that ever done in the other movies. There's always been references to that theme in the other movies.
Well, they play it in Spider-Man 3, that marching band, when Spider-Man swings in for his parade. That's what's playing by the marching band.
But what I mean is like the epicness of this particular arrangement. With the marching band, yes, but like there's, I don't know. I it's hard for me to articulate, but it's like there's a little bit more weight in the way that it was arranged in this versus that marching band scene, because the marching band was just, marching band is basically bombastic and, announcing and things like that. This is more like, here's your movie. Here's the movie. That's where I got, where I draw the lines there. That's my...
Well, you're not going to... The thing is, when I go for the technicalities, it's just to avoid a lot of the comments, because people are going to go, well, they played it in this and that, and the Asian lady sang it with the violin and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, look, we're well aware of that. We just didn't talk about it because we've talked about so much Spider-Man. I mean, I don't think you and I need to prove our worth as Spider-Man fans to anybody.
No.
I think we could team up and take down any duo in Spider-Man trivia, and that's the nerdiest thing I've ever said on the show, but it's the truth.
Very true.
Realistically, find two individuals that like the character as much as we do. And it's interesting when you were going on about how you relate to the emotional side of the Ultimate stuff. It's funny how you and I, while we're friends, we're very completely different people, like socially and just every kind of dynamic, but we still come together over the same character of Spider-Man. For me, it's partially the costume, the universe. There's just, I guess it also was the first superhero I was introduced to. My mom was big into comic books back in the day. We're talking, she grew up with Adam West Batman.
Nice.
So my mom just gave me superhero stuff as a kid. It was never, I found it myself. I even told those guys on the Iconic video I'm on, like, I discovered Spider-Man through an Avon tape, pre-94 cartoon, so I was watching Spider-Man on TV early, and then I had those early Toy Biz Marvel figures, the ones that had those backpacks that would talk, and all that stuff. I had those, and I had just all kinds of Spider-Man stuff before, and the video games and stuff like that. I've always been just partial to the character because it's always been accessible to me. And I think we've been lucky because in our lifetime we've always had we've never had a Batman and Robin level of like Spider-Man drop off, because while Spider-Man 3 is considered shitty now, back then maybe it wasn't loved, but it wasn't a flop. And The Amazing Spider-Mans 1 and 2 were garbage, but you had other Spider-Man media, and Spider-Man was still, he had already proven his worth. Like, there was nothing so detrimental that it killed off the character for 8 years.
Exactly. And for me, when I was introduced with any superheroes, it was had to be the Richard Donner Superman was movie, and the Adam West Batman were the first two things that superhero media that I was exposed to. And then my dad had we were watching TV Sunday morning, and there was a rerun of the old 60s Spider-Man, 67 Spider-Man cartoon, and so we were just like rewatching that, and so that kind of got me into the character, and then like years later, like reading a book about the whole thing that rung through for me more than anything was understanding that the motto that he lives by, with great power comes great responsibility. That whole thing kind of rang true for me, and kind of affected how I kind of choose to live my life, to be honest. But ultimately, I still, I agree. We continue to have the same love for the character. We have a love for the character. We have different perspectives on the character, but we still have a love for that same character, and we have a wealth of media content. I'm looking at my Disney Infinity figures, and I have like a Venom and a Spider-Man figure, along with all the other Marvel Avengers and things like that. So,
if I turn around
there's
on my
always
shelf,
going to be.
Oh, I'm with you on Spider-Man. Like, I still buy shit as an adult. I got the Hot Toys doll. I got figures that range from McDonald's to Lego, Hasbro, Toy Biz, everything. I have a box of Spider-Man 3 cereal on my shelf, unopened. Awesome. Like, it's just sitting there. It's
awesome.
I wonder how I'm not going to open it, but I bet you it's not rotted. It's just hard.
Have you ever seen like Brad Tries on YouTube?
Is that the Stone Gremlin guy? Yeah, I met him once. He was cool. Yeah.
Maybe you should do like a Jeff Tries of Spider-Man 3 cereal.
Oh god, it is Spider-Man month on the channel. I feel like it's the only time I could do it, and it wouldn't, just seem crazy.
Exactly. It wouldn't seem out of nowhere. It's like, well, we have to do something. Here's some content for you. Are you not entertained?
So Dave, who is your favorite Spider-Man villain?
It's a real big toss-up for me. I'd have to go either. I'm kind of a classic kind of guy. I will either say Green Goblin or Doc Ock, just because of the amount of action that you can get out of those characters and the amount of like depth that you can get out of the.
I'm with you about Green Goblin, and Doc Ock. Doc Ock's my favorite.
As I said, Doc Ock is also my favorite.
He's the one villain that beat Spider-Man and like took over his life. And even prior to that, I always liked Doc Ock, because Doc Ock was just so visually different. He was just a fat old white dude, but he still beat the hero because of his, his mental prowess. But it was his hubris that, caused his downfall.
Yeah, and then while I would be interested to see how they could work Doc Ock into the MCU, I also say that you can't replace Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. He really nailed that character.
He did a really good job of the pathos of the character, just and the insanity of being controlled by the arms. I really do think that but I think you could do a little bit. You know who? And this is maybe a silly idea, but the guy who played Ron Swanson on Community, I think he would be a fine MCU Doc Ock.
Oh, Nick Offerman?
Nick Offerman, yeah. Parks and Rec, that's what I meant to say. Yeah. Nick Offerman, I think he would be, this kind of shooting sense teacher that has idea and this this apparatus that he's shilling out to Stark Industries, or he's trying, or maybe he invented it and he's trying to steal it back from Stark Industries, and they somehow an accident fuses them together, creates Doc Ock. But I think he would be a very sinister and yet fun villain for this series, for this franchise.
How do you think we're going to go about introducing Oscorp?
You know what? When Happy mentioned that they sold Avengers Tower, I think they sold it to Norman Osborn.
Oh, that's a good thought.
And so that's how we get Oscorp in the MCU.
I hope they do it right, because I liked Willem Dafoe, and I'm glad he died the way he did, and I loved how he would appear to James Franco through the visions, and I was happy with all that stuff. But I would like them to do Norman Osborn, where he eventually finds out Spider-Man's identity, and he is I know they did it with the Vulture, but I like how he's waiting.
Right?
Maybe the Vulture out of respect, because Peter saved his life and all that shit that he's not going to tell. But I want one where the Green Goblin's going to play with Spider-Man for years over the course of movies, and Spider-Man knows and he knows, and they can't say it because they both love Harry in different ways. And I would like to see Peter take Mary Jane away from Harry and have that rift, and see Harry turn to drugs and all the stuff that happens in the books. I'm really, for the first time in 10 years, I'm very optimistic and excited to see where we can go with Spider-Man, because I feel like finally we have limitless possibilities, and the MCU is not slowing down anytime soon.
No,
so.
Not at all. So
and for the first time in a while, I don't want it to.
Exactly, and especially we have so many other characters that we can work with this series. I personally think that with especially I would like to see She-Hulk and Eros in the comics or in the movies, MCU. I remember there was a whole run about She-Hulk, but that's off topic here. But she's basically trying to defend Eros from being accused, who goes by the name Star Fox, who's basically Thanos' brother.
Do a barrel roll.
Well, he has this constant aura of influence that makes you very excited to see him in more ways than one, especially if and he can basically manipulate people to love him. And there was a trial where She-Hulk had to defend Star Fox because a woman accused him of using his sphere of influence to take advantage of her without consent.
So Bill Cosby.
Less skeezy.
It's funny how you bring up about you want to see things connect. I'd like to see Spider-Man meet Daredevil, because they've always been great in the books together, and in the TV show they were, or the cartoon they were good together when Matt Murdock defended Spider-Man. I'm not saying we need for that to happen where Spider-Man's on trial. But maybe in Daredevil Season 3, Spider-Man just swings by and they look at each other or they talk for 10 seconds and just, a nice little connective thing, because Lady Sif appears on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and so does Nick Fury and what's her name? Agent Maria Hill.
Yeah.
But no one's done it yet on the Netflix series, and to me the Netflix series are amazing, especially Daredevil. Oh my god.
Daredevil has been consistently really good. I'd say with part, I really didn't like the Electro stuff. It was a little too cheesy, but for me, I still think that it's better than the Electro that we got in the movies, and more developed than most of the Netflix series that are put out here. I genuinely love everyone for each individual reason here. Yes, I love Iron Fist. I won't be afraid to say that. I do love Iron Fist, and it's really because the earnestness of the character in this world, and just I am the Iron Fist, and no one believes him. I love that idea of just you're crazy. What are you talking about? You're crazy. And I love the corporate espionage too. That's it. That's an interesting angle. But I think ultimately, there was a lot more to do with the character, and they kind of started to get back on track with the character that way. But yeah, to see Spider-Man in an episode of Daredevil would be great. One thing I would love to see is, which I'm sure it's not going to happen, but a couple of, this is going back a ways, but I kind of pitched an idea for a Spider-Man cartoon. I put an intro on YouTube. I made my own Spider-Man cartoon intro. It's very much motion comic related stuff, but it had Spider-Man teaming up with Mary Jane and Johnny Storm, because there's always been that friendship between Johnny Storm and Peter Parker and Spider-Man. So I would really like to see that. I know it's probably not going to happen until Fox decides to give up the rights for Fantastic Four back to Marvel, but which I don't know if that's going to happen. But I'd love to see that as an idea. That's my idea.
I'd love for them also to take and just let Spider-Man grow and then keep making these movies indefinitely. I'm talking this guy's not my favorite Spider-Man because I haven't seen enough. Compared to what Tobey Maguire did in the first Spider-Man movie, I'm still going to give the edge to Tobey Maguire. If Tom Holland can continually give this performance through 3 films, then he'll be technically the best to me. But I honestly am in the long haul for 15 or 20 Spider-Man movies starring him in the MCU. We could go down to guys like the Enforcers. We could fight Hammerhead, have a Silvermane story. I'd love Spider-Man versus the Mob, just straight up. And if you had to put it on TV, put it on TV. Because, think of this. Silvermane and Hammerhead and Tombstone. You could have just a Gangster's Paradise Spider-Man Netflix series. And then it could be a little more serious, There could be a little more violence, stronger language, darker tone. Make it like a Luke Cage type of thing, but keep Spider-Man as the character he is. And just keep getting more Spider-Man, because if it's of this quality, I don't think anyone's going to leave upset.
Right, exactly, yeah. I would say, if I had my way, I would say keep the hands, keep Sony, say oh yes, we still have the character. Here's Sony logo, this, that, and yes, a little bit of product placement for their Sony product, whatever. But keep the quality. Make sure that the story comes first. Then the Spider-Man movie, the story should come first. It is his movie. Spider-Man should come first in those.
Oh yeah, of course. And I'm hoping they what was I gonna say? I'm hoping they can just Sony can take a back seat with their ego and not ruin this, because I'm so worried now that I enjoyed this movie. I'm worried that they're going to just do something stupid with this. They're going to make the Venom movie, and they're going to tarnish the Spider-Man brand recognition, and it's going to be like, hey, we're finally getting good ones, but the people that could make money from it keep messing it up due to ego, and it's like, oh, damn it. Like, what could be?
Yeah, and I completely agree there. You know, it's a tough line, because, you know, you have to make sure that everybody is getting, you know, everybody's getting their share. You know, you have to make sure that Sony gets their bit. You got to make sure that Marvel gets their bit. But one thing I did like in the most recent interview for Homecoming is that Tom Holland has officially said, I am the MCU Spider-Man. No other ways around it. I'm not a Sony Spider-Man. I am the MCU Spider-Man for as of right now.
And I hope we never have to see Miles Morales. Ugh.
I kind of have an affinity to Miles, but I think it's more the costume than anything. I really like that. I think it's a really good design.
It's a fine design, but the character isn't that interesting, and he's not... Here's the thing. He feels like a manufactured character who is not organically popular. He's just... He fits these diversity boxes, Scott. We have to have a character of color, and he has to have interracial friends, and blah, blah, blah. This is like what this movie was, essentially, but they kept Peter Parker and all the main characters traditional. Because I don't think you could ever sell a Spider-Man movie with Peter Parker as a black kid, because that's not who he is. He's a white guy with brown hair, and he's 5'10" and 165 pounds. Like, that's the character, and that's how he should remain. If you need a black superhero, there's Black Panther, there's the Falcon, there's tons of other ones. And Miles Morales just isn't, like, that different to a point where it's like, oh my god, this guy does so much more with the moniker of Spider-Man than Peter Parker ever did.
Well, one thing that I did kind of, I'm not sure if you were aware of this, but Donald Glover's character's the Prowler.
Yep.
So even seeing the Prowler, even as a villain turn hero, you know, later down the line, you know, that would be a cool idea.
Well, I leaned over to Dan in the movie when Donald Glover was making that deal, and he said about calls. I said, that's probably Hobie Brown, the Prowler. And then in the parking garage, he talks about it, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, I was right. And Dan just kind of looked over at me, because I have been I've been brushing up on my Spider-Man for this movie. Because tonight's episode is really important to me, because it's important to a lot of our listeners out there. This is the one time where, you know, comics and movies and everything we talk about comes together.
Exactly.
This is, you know, an MCU movie. These are big deals. These are billion-dollar pictures. This is where we are in entertainment right now. It's not... Star Wars isn't the name of the game anymore.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're cutting in and out.
Oh, sorry. All I was saying is Star Wars isn't the name of the game anymore. You know, Marvel is the thing. It's the event. They have it so many times a year. Star Wars still makes a bunch of money, but Star Wars was popular because it was the only thing like itself when it came out. Now there's competition from everything, and the spectacle of Star Wars is gone. We're still in this first generation of a shared movie universe based on a comic book franchise. This is all new to us still, and everything keeps building and building, and it honestly has an infinite amount of possibilities. If they do Infinity War right, and they don't kill off all the characters due to contractual obligations and ego, we're set forever. Like, the rest of our lives, we can see quality Marvel films continue to be released.
Oh, yeah. I think I was talking to one of the guys you did the video with off camera, and I was just we were both going back and forth about, you know, this movie's coming out, that movie's coming out, and how we have just like a wealth, you know, as people who love this type of movie, love these types of characters, have now like a wealth of media being dropped on us, whether it's the Netflix shows, whether it's the MCU movies, whether it's even I'm kind of excited for the new Disney cartoon, because it looks actually it ties into these movies. It ties into Homecoming, the Homecoming style of movies. So it looks interesting. So I'm kind of wondering how they're going to continue it without having to stick too much to the MCU brand there. You know what I mean?
I've been burnt down on Spider-Man cartoons for the last 5 years, though, because Ultimate Spider-Man, the every 5 seconds, the little chibi Spider-Man appears, and we can't tell a story. We have to keep jumping from scene to scene for those kids with ADD. That just turns me off. Give me... I'd rather have a 7-episode arc than, that.
That series is done. That's no longer...
Yeah, I'm thankful.
Going on anymore. And from what I've seen, because I have seen the new clips from the new show, it looks more like they're taking it more seriously, and they're actually, having, like, telling a story rather than cut to chibi Spider-Man spinning a wheel of morality, or Spider-Man teaming up with other heroes, which I like that idea of, like, him trying to be a mentor to younger heroes, but I think as an adult Spider-Man, mentoring younger heroes would probably be more of an idea because he's been through it. He knows what's going on, and he knows about the whole with great power comes great responsibility, and also what it's like to be a teenager, to grow up with these powers, and have these like moments where he can say your parents are not going to understand this completely. I understand that, but I do, and I can and if you need help, I'm right here. I'm always in this city. You cannot go you can't go 2 blocks without seeing my webbing somewhere. So, I like that idea more than just, teenagers fighting. If you want teenagers fighting a villain of the week, you have Power Rangers for that. You have Spider-Man. Spider-Man is really just like himself. It should all be self. I'm of the mind, where he should tell his own story. Like you said,
Yep.
it should all just be, his own story. Especially in the cartoons, where we get it kind of gets bogged down when you have like every other scene is a new character being introduced.
That's why I just couldn't get into that Ultimate show. To me, the best Spider-Man cartoon, Spectacular Spider-Man.
That's an awesome show. Yeah.
I got it on Blu-ray. I bought it as soon as it came out. I can't praise it enough. I know the art style's not for everybody, and honestly, I would love the show even more if it looked, I guess, more traditional. But if you watch the show, the way the characters move, it's just so perfect.
Exactly. I really I follow the character designer on DeviantArt and Facebook. So I love his style. It's really, I think it's Sean Galloway is the character
Cheeks?
designer. Yeah, Cheeks. So I follow him online, and there are days where I just like I want to just sit down and learn how to draw. You know what? Screw this. I got other things to do. I can't go back and redo my style again. Which, I'm trying to continue, trying to be a little bit more consistent with my style, to be honest. So, I was just, I would really like to be, I guess, I really like that series for his way of designing the characters. Like, Electro is different, Venom is bigger and bulkier, Green Goblin... and it does do that mob thing, where like you said, it's Spider-Man with the mob, but everybody's trying to be the big man on campus. Where it was Tombstone, and then it was the Green Goblin. I think there was. I don't know if they did a Wilson Fisk thing, but there was always like a power play involved. At least in the first season.
Yeah, they were sticking with Tombstone. That Lincoln, what was his name? Lincoln Washington or something? Like, they really made him to be the kingpin of this whole, that series. That I think they just stuck with Tombstone. There was no kingpin. And then all I said to you about art is, as an artist like you, I still haven't found my own style. I just practice and practice. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't have the idiosyncrasies down yet. To me, I just try to draw what I see and maybe simplify everything. That's kind of my mantra is make it look as good as possible, but do it as fast as possible so I can get more done.
Exactly. And I've been doing something different with the comic is I haven't been doing like full pages, but I've been doing comic strips. But messing with the panel layouts there because normally it's like 4 panels for a comic strip where I've been kind of like breaking up, where you would have the normal 4-panel grid, I would break one of the 4 into 2, and so I get like more panels out of it, but be kind of less to draw, more to draw at the same time. It's not as intensive as the 11x17 layout that I normally do for the pages, so it makes it a little bit easier. And also been doing a little bit simplified colors as opposed to the gradient cuts that I usually do.
Well, we got a listener out there. His name's Augs for President. He's a big artist, and he's my friend on Facebook. I'm trying to get him to go digital with his art. He's saving up money for a computer. So,
oh, good.
Do you think that digital is the best way to go right now?
As of right now, here with any art, to me personally, there's a lot of avenues for digital. I will say that. It doesn't cost anything. It basically costs the electric bill and an internet connection. Versus like going out to buy paper and making sure that you have paper stocked, and if you have to cut paper for different, if you're doing like cards or things like that, which I'll still do from time to time. But I think for me personally, I like digital better because it's a little bit more versatile, and I can, with my tablet, with my Surface, I can actually take it anywhere and draw on. So like if I go into work early, I can get like a page in or something like that.
Man, I could not draw a page before anything like that. To me, it takes... Like, I've been working on the same page for, like, a week. Honestly, I've only put, like, 10 hours into the thing, but I'm inking it meticulously, so it's taken a while. But I like digital for the fact that it's faster. There are a lot of things at your disposal, like 3D perspective grids and 3D models. Like, here's the thing. If I talk about taking shortcuts, every professional you guys like out there is taking the same shortcuts because the way the art field works, it's not about who produces the best in comic books. It's about who produces the fastest that meets a certain minimum level.
Exactly.
So Marvel right now has kind of got a shitty art staff, but you know what? They're getting their books out for the most part on time. And Augs, that's the real beauty of digital, man. Like, I don't have to pull out an eraser and look at it. I can hit Control-Z and fix my mistake. Hell, most of the time you see my sketches, they're underdrawings. I don't really go into the refined stages when I'm warming up because there's no need to.
Exactly.
But I can go from that and then go right over it with an ink pen in the program I use, Manga Studio, and I got finished art. I don't have to sit and trace onto clean paper and do all this stuff. It really is the way of the future. Actually,
Definitely.
It's the way of today.
Exactly. More artists are doing digital than anything, and the avenues are even greater. I know some people who do digital art with their finger on on their smartphone. So they, there are people that are just that more focused to do art like that. Me personally, I tried that and it just like didn't work very as well as the Surface. The Surface actually is one of the best investments I've ever made because I use 3 programs. I've gotten used to doing it this way. I use Sketch Pro to do the underdrawing, the basic shapes. Studio for the ink because I can actually stabilize the brush and make it a little bit more fluid than me trying to draw the line and screw up significantly. And then I use Photoshop for colors and letters, and that's been that's been the way I've been doing it, and it may be a little bit crazier to do that, but that's the way I like producing that way.
Well, dude, your lettering is always on point. You there?
Yeah, I think you're cutting in and out again.
Oh, all I was saying is your lettering's always on point because the book we worked on together, That's my favorite aspect, is the wording just looks so professional. It looks straight out of Marvel. Like, I love it.
Oh, thank you so much. I really wanted to do my best with that. You know, that was something that just kind of, you know, you talked to me about that, and, you know, working with me, you know, with Oz about that, yeah, and making sure that we got like really good quality, you know, utilizing the artwork that's already existing and the spaces that are there for, you know, and lettering. I've learned for the years and years and years that I've been doing these webcomics is the letterers are the unsung hero of comics, because they have to find a way to put the words into the space without crowding the art.
Well, you've done a phenomenal job with that, because, dude, like, I've lettered my own pages before, and they look like shit, and to me it always ruins the flow. With yours, it was like, there we go, that's the final piece. It tied everything together perfectly. Excellent.
Well, I am so glad I am able to help with that. You know, I'm always up for being creative, and, you know, any way, in any avenue I can do so.
Well, hopefully that book gets out. I don't even know what it's called officially, so right. Listeners, I know you're probably like, well, Jeff, can I read it? Can I see the work? Blah, blah, blah. Look, you guys can see it as soon as we, the people that are working on it, know it's happening.
Exactly.
But what you guys can do is check out Dave's webcomic Lightning Man. Dave, give us a quick elevator pitch about Lightning Man.
Oh, it's basically, what if you read comics all your life and then suddenly gained superpowers? How would you use that? Would you be the superhero? Would you have, you know, and how would that affect your life overall? And that's basically what we're doing with Lightning Man over on the electrifyinglightningman.com. Posting every Friday. We have back issues to where I think there's 8 completed issues online that you can read for free. There is a Patreon that you can donate to if you'd like. Some cool roads there too. So if you want to help us out, you know, and I'm also available for commission. So if you want your own little pinup, because I also do pinups every Monday, and just post to my DeviantArt and to Facebook and things like that. I think the most recent one was Mysterion from South Park. But drawn in more of like a traditional superhero style.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
The last one I think I saw of yours was Green Lantern.
Yeah, that was the week before.
Oh, okay, so I'm not too far behind.
Right. But, you know, if you like reading fun comics, you know, and you're not averse to seeing, you know, Spider-Man-esque poses, please feel free to check out our book here.
Yeah, it's a great... That's kind of how I became friends with Dave, because Dave worked at the theater we both went to tonight to see Spider-Man, and he happened to have a pad of illustration paper, the exact brand I used, out on the counter. I guess he was showing his work to somebody. And I thought to myself, hey, I use this paper. This is comic book paper. So I just started leafing through while I was getting his popcorn, and, you know, we became friends there. We shop at the same comic book store, and we've worked on a comic book together. That's kind of a cool thing. I mean, a lot of people have that dream. We've done
exactly. Yeah. And I will continue to do that, and hopefully we will continue to work together.
Hey, if something happens, great. I mean, I'm kind of getting to a point where nothing has happened. I guess maybe I haven't pursued it enough. I've really been focused on the podcast, and that's working. I mean, we are literally 2 subscribers away from hitting our 3,500 mark.
Oh, nice.
We have awesome people on Patreon. I got great fans that message me all the time, and all kinds of shit like that. So I've really focused a lot of time into this, but I do draw every day. That's the one thing people don't know. Like, maybe I'm focused on this show mostly, but every day I'm up in the morning doing my warm-ups. I look at, I draw poses I see and try to master my anatomy, get faces down. Hell, during our entire little podcast tonight, I've been sketching pictures of Spider-Man. I mean, they mostly suck because I'm drawing with a ballpoint pen on a little sheet of paper. But I don't know if I can ever get it out of my blood fully, but I do want to work with you more in the future because it's a lot of fun. It's really easy. We don't really have any communication issues. It's just like, hey, this is what we need, and then you always deliver more than what we thought. So
I'm glad to do so.
Maybe we'll just try to get Oz to get issue 3 in production, so I can draw some pages, and you can letter some pages, and we'll get Gustavo, our colorist, out of Spain to color some pages, and if he's busy, we'll get somebody else. I know a guy now, so...
Nice. Yeah. And, yeah, if you guys need any color work, I can also try to do that as well, but I have, priorities, obviously.
Yeah, I understand, of course.
But yeah, I'm really excited for that project. I'm really glad we got to chat today about that. I'm also kind of working on something in the future regarding Lightning Man as well, kind of like a alternate take on it, kind of like an alternate universe of what if he wasn't as I'd say not powerful, but not as experienced, and it was because of something that happened in the past, and it's basically working to get him back to full charge, basically. So working on that with a friend right now.
Well, Dave, I always check out Lightning Man and everything you do, and listeners, you guys should do it too. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's entertaining stuff.
Yeah.
It's good work, and it's not like anything. Realistically, it's got a spirit that you don't find in modern day comics. There's a lot of hope in Lightning Man. There's a lot of fun, and you're not going to leave the book feeling like, oh my god, this is another SJW Marvel title in disguise or something. Dave is a smart dude who knows what he's doing. He's been doing it for a long time, and I think you should do yourself a favor by reading it.
I couldn't agree more.
So normally we close our episodes out with fan mail, but you know what? The other guys aren't here. This is more of a Spider-Man-centric episode. So next week we'll do our patron stuff. Thank you to our newest patron. You, sir, will get a special welcome in the beginning of next week's episode, as well as Kendo and Justin B getting 2 questions each. And also, I have to look up your name off the top of my head, but we had a newest $25 patron. If you could please send in your questions to the channel via Patreon, I'll get an email, and I'd love to read 2 questions for you next week. And I will keep you guys up to date with the physical posters. I've contacted somebody. We're seeing what's going to happen. And we got to get the t-shirt vote in. So this has been episode 79 of World Class Bullshitters. Every Thursday night, we take a dump on the world of pop culture. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, tell us why, and that's fine too. We'll read that. Hell, it could be just as entertaining as a nice comment from somebody that did like the episode. If you really do love this channel, Patreon. We are on Patreon. There will be a link in the description below. Anything helps. The money that you give us, it doesn't go into my pocket. What it does is it's helping me get stuff together to expand us. We're on iTunes right now, so please give us a 5-star review. We're on Stitcher. Please check us out there. And what I want to do in the future is I want to get a worldclassbullshitters.com website, open up a store, feature our webcomic that we're going to put out soon. We're not getting a bunch of interest, but I've already drawn so much stuff, so I'm just going to feature it there. Maybe it'll garner more interest. It'll host all of our stuff, because YouTube's changing, and we don't want to be dependent on YouTube forever. But we got the greatest fans in the world, and I know you guys will follow us anywhere we go on the internet. You know where to find Dave. You know where to find me. Everything will be back to normal next week. If you got ideas for next week's show, let me know. I'd love to implement them, because as of now, we got nothing. Also, it's Spider-Man month here on the channel. So far, you guys have received the Spider-Man commentary exclusively from me, the top 5 Spider-Man costumes, and now the Spider-Man Homecoming review, with the added bonus of the best Spider-Man discussion you'll find anywhere on the internet. 2 dudes from 2 different walks of life coming together over one character. I've been your host, Jeff Hicks, and with me tonight has been Dave Lightning Man Amorando. Dave, say goodbye.
Have a good night.
All right, we'll be back next week. Thanks for listening.
To him, life is a great big day. Wherever there's a hang, you'll find a Spider-Man.